Hey, I'm Hunt, and this is Hunt on LSU, your channel for LSU Fighting Tiger football talk. Enjoy the video. We want you to leave a comment below, hit that like button, and subscribe right below the video. Enjoy. All right, thanks to Luke Johnson for giving us a few minutes here as he does every single Thursday. Chris Blair coming up in about 30 minutes. Nope, that's wrong. 40 minutes from right now. My math is it's just not good. Just not good at all.
Nope, it's bad.
You should see you've heard many times when I try to count back from kickoff to the pregame show and noon gets involved, it's just an absolute disaster. It's just, I'm just awful at it. It just is what it is. Some people had their strengths, had their weaknesses. I can't count. That's a weakness of mine. So you just got to work with it. You know, that's just all there is to it. All right. LSU and South Alabama coming up on Saturday night in Tiger Stadium. I am, as I said, not going to convince you that South Alabama is a threat to LSU. I don't believe South Alabama is a threat to LSU to win the game. I do think there are some aspects of this game where I can pick and draw from. As I mentioned in the last segment, like when Nichols comes to town, you're dealing with 285-pound offensive linemen. You're dealing with non-scholarship FCS players. It's just not – it's not a fair fight. And not suggesting that South Alabama and LSU is a completely fair fight. They're different weight classes. But it's one that I think LSU can draw some things from. And so I have three matchups that I've pointed out over at LouisianaSports.net, and I've kind of dove into the statistics, and I've watched some of South Alabama to come up with it, and I think there are some things to take a peek at. The first is South Alabama's offensive backfield, their quarterback and their running back against LSU's front seven. That's really generic. Usually you try to do one-on-one or a specific position group, but this is really just a matter of LSU playing assignment football against these two guys who are good in South Alabama's backfield. Gio Lopez is their quarterback, and their running back, whose name you've probably heard a few times by this point because it's humorous, Fluff Bothwell. Those two guys have really done a good job for South Alabama this year. Major Applewhite's got them in a spread offense, a lot of read option concepts, and they're creative in the running game. Last week, Bothwell ran for 116 yards, and Lopez ran for 105 against Appalachian State. Neither of these two guys are really fast. Bothwell is like 5'10", 220, 225. He's a freshman. He's a bruiser. And Lopez doesn't look like a good runner. He's kind of thick, and he isn't really fast, but they're creative, and they create some space. And if you get out of position, they will block it, and Lopez can run a little bit. And as I mentioned, he went over 100 yards last week. So Harold Perkins is out. You've got a new linebacking core. They're either going to go with the two Weeks brothers and Greg Penn, or they're going to go with Whit Weeks and Greg Penn and Major Burns at the star. Either way, you've taken one of your guys who's been a constant for you. No matter his production, he's been a constant for you, and he's coming off the field. Those linebackers need to be in the right place. South Alabama is going to run the ball. Against Appalachian State last week, they ran the ball 43 times for 320 yards. Now, App State stinks on defense. Clemson scored a bajillion on them, and so did South Alabama. But still, there's a commitment to the running game, and you've got to play assignment football. And those assignments hold true whether you're playing Ole Miss or Oklahoma or South Alabama. I don't want to see LSU out of position and Fluff Bothwell running down the hash for 25 yards. I don't want to see Gio Lopez chug-a-lugging off left end like he did against Appalachian State for a 35-yard touchdown. Be in the right place and stop these two guys. They're good enough to beat you if you're in the wrong place. LSU needs to be in the right place. The other piece to this is we know LSU's pass rush is good against this level of competition. Remains to be seen if they cook Caden Proctor in Alabama when that time comes. But when they play these average to below average teams, they've rushed the passer really well. They got after South Carolina, they got after UCLA, and they're going to get after South Alabama when they get into passing situations. But you got to get Lopez on the ground. He's savvy back there, man. I'm watching these highlights. He's stepping up. His eyes are down the field. He's stepping up and rolling out, extending plays. He's spinning out and keeping his eyes downfield. Like he's a savvy dude, and LSU needs to rattle him a little bit. And you need to rush the passer. You need to get to him. So all of this is on LSU's front seven to make plays moving forward against this Major Applewhite offense at South Alabama. Now I'll take the cliche and go to the rest of the defense with the LSU secondary because the defense is the biggest deal. But I'm really focusing on one guy here for South Alabama. It's Jamal Pritchett. Pritchett is clearly the number one for South Alabama. He's a senior. He's got 26 catches on the year. If you take their second leading receiver and third leading receiver, You combine those two to get to 26 catches per year. So he's got as many catches as second and third on the team combined. He's a little guy. He's 5'8". He's shifty. He'll make you miss. And Ashton Stamps and J.K. Johnson, if those are the two guys LSU sends out there, maybe Sage Ryan goes down. I'm not sure. I don't expect Zy Alexander to play. We'll find out more about that at Brian Kelly's press conference later today. But Pritchett is their go-to guy, and he's scored a touchdown in every game thus far for the Jaguars. He's really elusive. He's got 196 yards worth of punt return yardage the last 2 weeks. That tells you what you need to know. Now, I'm guessing, just a guess out of thin air, that Northwestern State's punt coverage unit's not great. Safe assumption? Okay. But still, you return a ton of punt return yardage, you're probably a pretty good athlete, and this guy has. We know what's coming down the pike. Lane Kiffin, Jackson Dart, Trey Harris, that whole Ole Miss crew is going to put some pressure on LSU. Because you can cover Jamal Pritchett doesn't mean you can cover Trey Harris, doesn't mean you can cover those guys at Alabama. But if you can't cover Jamal Pritchett, you probably can't cover those guys down the road. So I'm looking at this matchup, Jamal Pritchett, the guy that South Alabama is going to try to force the ball to, cover him, tackle him. Maybe they throw some quick hitter stuff that you can't necessarily break up. Go tackle him. No big plays. That's what you're trying to eliminate if you're LSU. No big plays. And they're going to try to get the ball to Pritchett early and often. LSU's got to cover him. So that's the second matchup I'm looking at. The third one here is LSU's interior offensive line against the middle linebacker at South Alabama, Blaine Myrick. Myrick, to this point, has really been the man in the middle for South Alabama. He's racked up a ton of tackles, 34 of them. That's 13 better than second place. He kind of cleans up everything for them in the middle. LSU's got to run the ball eventually, and this is a good time to start. And the interior offensive line is going to have to handle their assignments and climb to the second level and cut off Myrick, who makes most of the plays in the middle for South Alabama, so that these running backs can find some seams and create some yardage. They've got to find a way to run the ball. We've talked about men in the box. We've talked about they're throwing more because of that, and that's all well and good. But you gotta run the ball at some point. And Myrick's the guy that LSU is going to have to find and block because he's making a lot of tackles. So I'm looking for the running game. I'm looking for LSU to create some space. I don't care if it's Durham. I don't care if it's Williams. I don't care if it's Jackson. I don't care if it's Johnson. Whoever's in there, find some room, and let's find a way to run the football between the tackles. I'm all good with Caden Durham making guys miss, bouncing things to the outside, running for 98 yards against South Carolina. That's great. But I want some more traditional and schematically sound runs that are blocked up well, that get the running backs moving with a head of steam into the second level. Because you do that, you allow LSU's athletes to take over. And when they can take over, they're pretty good. I know Caden Durham's good. I know there are people that think Caleb Jackson looks heavy and he's not as fast. I drop that pin every day. That wasn't even the top. That was the whole pin. However, let's get back to it. Caleb Jackson looks good to me. He looks fast. He looks strong. He looks like he has nowhere to run. Block them up and create some lanes so that LSU can run the football. So those are my three matchups to watch on Saturday night. It's South Alabama's backfield, their quarterback and their running back, Gio Lopez and Fluff Bothwell against LSU's front seven, assignment sound football. Jamal Pritchett, do everything wide receiver for them. Ashton Stamps, J.K. Johnson and company, y'all go tackle him, go cover him. And LSU's interior offensive line, handle your assignments, handle your double teams, climb to the next level, create some lanes so that LSU can run the football in this game. I think LSU can accomplish all three of these things. Just a matter of want to and get it done, because you understand that you're fighting complacency this week. You understand on the other side of this, you got a short week of practice, and everybody can go home next weekend. That's exciting for young people. You got to fight that complacency, lock it in for 4 hours, get this stuff done, then you get to the bye week, and then the real stuff starts. Those are my thoughts. If you want to check it out, you can at louisianasports.net. Louisianasports.net. Also got some Saints information coming pretty quickly here. Saints attendance report for practice, injury report, some thoughts from Dennis Allen as well. So lots of stuff popping up at louisianasports.net this afternoon. Got a lot to do in hour number 2 of today's show. We got to get to Chris Blair, the voice of the Tigers. Got to get to some thoughts from LSU basketball practice yesterday. Of course, Dennis Allen met with the media yesterday as well, so we'll have some sound from DA there. When we come back, best win and worst loss in the NFL and college football. Joe Burrows is involved here. That's for sure. We'll talk about that next. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.